Alright guys, how's it going? I'm the Crown Clown, and today we're coming right back at you guys with What If Deku Had Hamon, Part 3. Now, I made a little mistake in there with saying that Mineta was still in the class, which he's not. So, yeah, just correcting that part. But, yeah, this is the first video that I'm actually recording up here in North Carolina now. So, not fully set back up to where I could do this, like, constantly back to back to back. But I'm getting there. So just be patient with me, and before you know it, we're going to be getting out some new content. Also, there's a little bit of an announcement. After Hamon and after Spawn, I'm not going to do the multiverse right then and there, because I already have 2 series that's backed up that I have to get to and get done before March. Because, a little special announcement here, if I'm able to finish off those 2 series quickly, then the rest of February will be JoJo month, which means I'll do more JoJo what ifs. And yeah, all of March is Kaiju month, leading up to the release of Godzilla vs. Kong. And I already got a lot of what ifs planned for a Kaiju month, so I hope you guys will enjoy that, because not all of them will focus on Deku. Some of them will be different characters with different abilities. Say, you know, another Fairy Tail what if, you know, who knows? Might throw another Fairy Tail what if in there. So yeah, anyways, with that out of the way, and is it good to be back to recording videos? I love doing this shit. So with that, let's get into a quick little recap. So where we last left off, Deku was really, well, he healed All Might fully, so that deal that's on All Might's side, yeah, not there anymore. Meaning All Might's hero time is through the roof, and his power output is increased because he doesn't have an injury holding him back. He doesn't have to revert back to Small Might for X amount of time anymore. No, it's just like he's there. He's full All Might again. Now, One for All is still leaving his body, so he won't have his quirk indefinitely, but he is able to maintain his muscle form now permanently. As for Aizawa, he never got injured because Deku and Aizawa tag team the Nomu. So yeah, Nomu was obliterated by All Might. Shigaraki and Kurogiri, aka Warpgate, they got away. All the other villains, however, did not get away, and they were all caught. But they don't know the League of Villains' true motives now because, for one, they just think that they were out to get Deku. And, you know, Deku's parents, well, they're buying UA. And, yeah, so, the sports festival's coming up. So with that out of the way, let's jump right back into What If Deku Had Hamon, Part 3. Hope you guys enjoy. So, where we're gonna pick up is, it's the day right after the villain attack, and Nomu is a big thing on the news right now because people are wanting to know, where did this guy come from? How strong is he? Like, they heard that he was throwing blows with All Might. Nomu got leaked to the press somehow, some way, but he still got leaked. So the heroes are having to, you know, figure out who leaked Nomu, why that information is getting out, and most importantly, the press have picked up on Izuku Midoriya Zeppeli, and they're wanting to know, how strong is this kid? Why is he such a priority target for villains these days? What is UA doing to keep its students safe? So Nezu's coming underneath a lot of flack right now because of that whole incident getting leaked to the press, and he has no time to respond, especially with the matters dealing with the Zeppeli family and with Nomu. And Nezu just can't have any rebuttal right now. And with him not saying anything, that gives Deku's parents the perfect opening, with the Speedwagon Foundation holding a huge press conference with Deku there, So yes, Deku missed school because this press conference is going on while in school. And the students are watching it live because Aizawa wants to know what's going to happen. Where does his job stand? Because Aizawa's job's on the line with this, so he really needs to know, does he need to start looking at potential full-time hero work again? If so, he's going to have to get on a different sleep schedule because he's a nighttime hero, not a daytime one. So with that, he's just watching it, and he's telling them all to shut up and listen. He needs to hear every word. So Inko gets up on the podium and she says, "Greetings, my name is Inko Zeppeli. I am an Italian woman. My son, Izuku Midoriya Zeppeli, was the target of a recent villain attack at UA High School. And what measures were put into place to make sure villains could not get in? What was the measures to state that everything would have been checked? Because apparently villains were there before the students even arrived. What were the heroes doing? What was UA doing? Why couldn't they have checked everything again before the villains or the students arrived? How could they have let so many villains get in there undetected and unnoticed? Are they really that lax? Do they have that much confidence in their teachers? Obviously not, because if it hadn't been for the help of my son, then things could have been a lot worse. With that, I would like to know, UA, if you're not going to fully protect your students, then perhaps it is time for the Speedwagon Foundation to buy UA and establish a safer residence for students, a safer place for all to go to, and to assure that a villain like attack like this again would not be easily accomplished. And the press are going wild. Basically, they want to know, how would they do this? How would they incorporate that? And that's when Hisashi steps up and he says, "My name is Hisashi Midoriya, and I am the father of this brave young man right here, Izuku Midoriya Zeppeli. Now, how do we plan to establish security? Well, that should be obvious. The same way we have security established for the Speedwagon Foundation branches all over the world. Not a single successful villain attack has been raided against a Speedwagon Foundation building. We will incorporate the same security measures, but increase it tenfold for these students who are not adults, who have not signed up for potential villain attacks to raid and potentially claim their lives with their inexperience and youth. These students did not need to be exposed to this kind of criminal element this early on in their careers. Sure, UA is a school for heroes. However, sending high school students into battle with villains is negligence. It is unacceptable. We will not tolerate this, and we will acquire true peace and security at UA. Whether we have to buy it or whether UA is willing to make a deal, we will secure peace and security. I thank you all for your time. Any other questions?" As the media is going crazy, they're asking, what about your son? What about the other students? Can your son make a comment? Please, let us speak to Izuku. As everyone's just like going crazy. So Deku steps up, pops the hat, walks up and says, "My name is Izuku Midoriya Zeppeli. I am here to answer all your questions. So please, ask one by one. We'll start with this beautiful lady in the front row. Ma'am," as she asked, "what exactly are your powers and how did you gain them?" As Deku just huffs and says, "I breathe. That is my power." And they're just like, "There is no way you can breathe and be that strong." And Deku says, "I have trained my entire life, ever since I was the age of 5. I am quirkless. You can look through my medical records, it will all be there. I have no quirk whatsoever, and at that time, I trained my body vigorously. My breathing is the source of my power and strength, because with poor breathing comes poor power. You need to be able to put your strength into everything, so breathing is key. As everyone's just like, that kind of makes sense. So another person asks, does that mean that you're the strongest quirkless human on the earth? As Deku says, yes. And everyone's just like, don't you think that's a bit arrogant? And all Deku says is, show me a stronger quirkless person and I'll believe you. And nobody can. They ask, how did you feel about the villain attack? As Deku says, and in his mind he's like, I should keep with my parents' narrative, but at the same time, I'm going to be truthful. He says, while I did enjoy the challenge, it was indeed too much for some of my classmates. Actually, all of my classmates. It was too much for them. Because, as my parents said, we are too young to be experiencing these types of villain attacks. We are only 15 years old, and to be put in that type of danger is unacceptable of any educational institute. Even though the challenge that they face and could provide the experience is necessary for us to become heroes, it is not something we need at this current time. With that, I ask, how would you guys feel if your children were in there during that villain attack? As nobody can really answer him straight up. They all just kind of brush that question off. And Deku states, if there's no further questions, arrivederci. And he walks off the stage. And everyone's going crazy, wanting some more questions, and Deku just does not give a fuck. He just walks straight off there. His parents say that was very mature of him, and they are happy to see he has gained such confidence while being here in Japan. And Deku tells his mother, I've always had this confidence. After all, it is a Zapelli trait, is it not? As Inko says, yes it is. So, yeah, Inko, she's actually pretty chill in this. She's not all overprotective or anything. She's just like a normal mother who lets her child have their freedom, but at the same time, if they're exposed to danger that's way outside of their pay grade that they should not be exposed to at that age, she's gonna bite down hard. Hisashi's the more overprotective dad in this one. So, yeah, basically, that day ends, and within 24 hours, the people that own UA, they've submitted an official offer to the Speedwagon Foundation to buy UA High School. With that, there's another press conference. Deku, however, is not at this one. He is at school, and his job is very simple. Tell his classmates that UA has been bought, because it hasn't been officially announced yet. So, in the morning, when Deku gets there, everyone's just crowding around him, asking him, how was the press conference? Were you scared? And Deku's like, oh, no. And Aizawa says, so, what's the verdict, kid? As Deku tells him, UA's been bought by my parents. And everyone's freaking out, just like, wait a minute. You mean this Zapelli's own UA? As Deku says, no, not the Zapelli's. The Speedwagon Foundation owns UA. After all, if it was my family, we wouldn't be able to provide the security that the Speedwagon Foundation can. Therefore, UA is now an official asset of the Speedwagon Foundation, meaning everyone in here has been grandfathered in underneath the new entrance exam policies and qualifications. And everyone's just like, wait, what? And Deku says, oh, yes, the entrance exams, they've been revamped. Meaning there's no more robot fighting or anything like that. That's strictly just evaluate your quirk. As Aizawa says, so basically, what are they going to do? And Deku tells him, basically, the whole new entrance exam qualification, which all support course and general study students will be applicable to take to reevaluate their skills and quirks will be that they tell them what their quirk is, and based on how they use their quirk in an actual combat situation, that could be seen as an everyday thing, because face it, you're not going to fight robots every day. That's just not going to happen. So we put up some of our own people against them, and if they use their quirk efficiently and correctly, they are put into the hero course. As he looks and he says, there was actually one student that wanted to take that test today, and since there's an opening in class 1A, I wouldn't be surprised if he's here tomorrow. And Aizawa says, okay, but what about the teachers? And Deku says that some of the staff will be recycled, but for Aizawa, he's safe. He put in a good word for him with his parents, so Aizawa, your job's alright. In fact, you'll actually be getting a pay raise. On top of, there's actually going to be a new principal instated. As Aizawa's like, what? A new principal? But who's going to take up that job? Who's going to be the new principal of UA High School? And basically, Deku says, well, that hasn't been decided yet, but Nezu's being fired due to his incompetence and for his bad attitude towards students and their parents. The Speedwagon Foundation can't afford to be associated with someone who lacks manners and tact like Nezu does. As Aizawa says, okay, so how about they find this new principal? And Deku says, well, my parents actually already have somebody in mind. And there's like, who is it? And Deku says, it's a hero of great experience and has been around since before All Might. And everyone's just kind of shocked, and Deku says, well, if he gets the job, you'll find out tomorrow. So with that, the day comes to a close. Next day, there's officially a new principal in class. Well, not at class 1A, but there's a new student in class 1A. And honestly, Gran Torino's the new principal. And All Might's freaking out. He's just like, Master. And, Gran Torino says, Toshinori, have you been finding a disciple yet? Someone who can take your quirk? And have you been training them properly? As All Might says, I've been trying to, but the kid's not the brightest tool. And Gran Torino tells him, Toshi, you weren't the brightest tool. And look at you. You somehow managed to grasp it. How? I don't know. But still, I want to meet your successor. Bring him to me. And one more thing. Bring me Izuku Zeppeli, as All Might just says, right away. So, during that time, Class 1A is introduced to the new student, Shinzo. And yes, Shinzo takes the place of Mineta. And with that, basically, everyone starts to get to know Shinzo, and he's actually pretty friendly with them, since he doesn't have that whole they're looking down on me thing since of the new Speedwagon thing. He's actually a lot more friendlier, and isn't really caught up in his own head anymore. Because the people that assessed him was Hisashi. And Hisashi told him, you have the potential to be a great hero. So really, Shinzo's looking up to Deku's dad. And basically, Hisashi pulled a lot of strings to get Shinzo in there, and to get Shinzo, especially with Aizawa. Because Hisashi thinks that Aizawa could be the perfect person to teach Shinzo. So with that, Shinzo's actually very nice to Deku, as Deku's very nice to Shinzo. And the two start a good friendship that's growing. Monoma does get a little bit jealous though. And Kendo, she's actually a bit worried that some of them will get kicked out if they don't perform well in the upcoming sports festival, which Aizawa is currently going over. So, with that, everyone shuts up and pays attention. Aizawa tells them they've only got a few months till the sports festival because, yes, the sports festival was pushed back because of the merger with UA and the Speedwagon Foundation. And the sports festival will not have the same events. I'm changing them. Because with the Speedwagon Foundation comes new events. Like I said, everything's changing and evolving right now. So, with that, I hope you guys do enjoy these new events, by the way. I spent a long time thinking them up. But yeah. So, everyone starts their training. But Shinzo's actually training with Deku and Monoma. Because Deku sees a lot of potential in him, and Aizawa's actually coming over to help train Shinzo as well. Because of that, Shinzo's actually getting a lot more out of these few months of training, and he's actually able to catch up to some of the students in Class 1A, if not overtake them. Like Kaminari, he's actually able to overtake Kaminari in full-on physical ability thanks to these few months with Deku, Monoma, Aizawa in a Speedwagon Foundation facility. Yeah. And by the way, all these students, they do have access to the Speedwagon Foundation facilities now, since they are part of the Speedwagon's Foundation educational program now, which was just established too by UA. So with that, the few months of training is over, as everyone still does really good in their classes because the academics part is a lot harder enforced now because of the Speedwagon Foundation. So with that, the new principal, aka Gran Torino, walks up to the podium as everyone sees it's a little old man, and he starts to speak. I welcome you all to UA's first ever newly founded sports festival. This event will be broadcast not just all throughout Japan, but all over the world from here on out. And to incorporate this new relaunch of UA, we would like to have our new founders from the Speedwagon Foundation come down to say a few words to you all and tell you how these new sports festival rules will be implemented. So, with that, Inko is the one to walk down. As Inko gets up there and says, "It's my pleasure to be the one to introduce these new sports festival rules. So, let's not waste any time because I know these students are raring to go and show you what they've got and what they've worked for over these past 3 months. We chose to give them 3 months because 3 months is the ample time for students to grow and learn new abilities and techniques. So, let's go over these new rules. Rule number 1 is there shall be no killing of any kind, and students are allowed to use their hero outfits and equipment to make things as much of an advantage for them as possibly. Because in the real world, heroes will always have their equipment, and people from the support course and general studies have been given and issued support gear and hero costumes to make sure they have an advantage and can keep up with the rest of them. Second rule, there shall be no foul play of any kind. Keep everything clean and no hitting people below the belt. That is an immediate disqualification. While we're trying to give you as much of an advantage as possible, we expect you to perform in a professional manner, meaning no low blows. Keep the fights clean or you will be disqualified. And everyone's just like, okay. And Inko, she takes a deep breath and says, as for rule number 3, no holding back. We expect you guys to give it everything you've got. If we suspect even for a moment that you're holding back, you will be immediately disqualified and your ranking will be tanked. Understood? As everyone says, wait a minute, that's it? Inko says, oh no, there's a 4th one. And everyone's just like, a 4th rule? What's this? As Inko tells them, absolutely no teaming up. This will be a singles competition through and through. No team events whatsoever. As everyone's just shocked. They're just like, wait a minute, what? No team ups? And everyone's just kind of confused. As Deku's just cracking his knuckles. And he's ready for it. He knew his mom would pull something like this. So, he's ready. As Inko says, that's all, she hands it back to Gran Torino, who asks Midnight to come down to introduce the events one by one. So, the first event is a full-on race battle royale. There's a race path made, and the first 40 students to get in will be the only ones able to move on to the next stage. As the racetrack goes around, students will have to stop and battle each other to get through. So with this new event being the first one up, it's meant to eliminate over half of them. As everyone's actually kind of worried. They're just like, crap, we've got no chance at this. Since it's really just all race and battle. The faster you get up, we'll have certain zones. So basically, think about it like this. If you're up there in a faster area and you get students who are comparable to you in strength, only one will be able to leave that circle after the battle is over. But while the battle is going on, other students can race around you. So it's really difficult for them to have to pick. But the students that get to that area first are locked in. If they leave, it's considered a forfeit. So, every student is going to have to partake in at least one battle. But I'm not going to have anyone from class 1A or 1B fight each other yet. So, yeah, let's get on with this. So, the event starts. And Deku is booking it. Like, he's just up there. And Monoma knows not to go at the same speed as Deku, and Shinzo, he's got the same feeling. If he goes up there, he's just going to get curb stomped. So, they let Deku go. And they're actually hanging back towards the rear. But Monoma, he finally settles on being stuck in the middle. So, he's running over there. And Monoma intentionally pushes Kendo out of the way and rushes into that circle. And he takes out every single support course person right then and there. Because he knew their quirks would be a bad matchup against Kendo. As for Deku, he's up there just waiting on students. Nobody wants to step into his circle. But frankly, some of the support course people, they decide to risk it. They go up in there with him. And all Deku does, bubble launcher, sweeps the whole field, knocks them all out as Deku just runs past them. And Deku's the first one to get there, because even though people like Todoroki did pass him at that moment, they still got stuck in their own battle circles. And Deku, having fought already once, he knows where all the rest of them are from his Hamon, because basically he sees where everybody else is running, so he decides not to run next to them. He decides to run outside of them. And sure enough, because of that, he gets out free and scot and doesn't have to participate in another battle, winning the event. As Hisashi looks at his son's tactical thinking and is honestly really surprised and happy to see his son's actually playing this smart. So, Hisashi is very thankful that they implemented these new events so Deku could grow and so these other students could grow. However, the second person is Bakugo. Because yes, Bakugo blitzed everything. Like, he had enough. So, the third person, Todoroki. Fourth is Monoma. Fifth, Shinzo. And sixth is Kendo. So, all of the other ones make it in from class 1A and 1B, but nobody else, which means Mei Hatsumi, she's not there whatsoever. And seeing as how this is more of an even split than before, they decide to change the next event to knock it down to a total of 4. So, they decide to do a 4-way split of Battle Royale matches. So, I'm just gonna basically cover Deku's circle. Everybody else you can put wherever you want, but I'll go over the winners of those. So, in Deku's circle, you have Deku fighting Todoroki. You have him fighting Ida. You have him fighting Uraraka, which he is a bit conflicted about, because he does like her. He has, let's see, there was 40 of them. Divide that, you need 10. So, okay. We have Todoroki, Ida, Ochako, you have Ibara, Tetsu, and for the other 5, you have Momo, Tokiyami, you have, let's see, you have Yui, you have, you have Togaru, and you have Sen, and you have Shihai. Basically, that's them. And for the last one, you have Pony, who's in there as well. Basically, Deku's having a pretty good matchup right here. And honestly, he's excited. So, the first match starts. And with that, Deku goes ham. Like, he does not care. As he immediately knocks Todoroki right in the face with a Hamon overdrive. And Todoroki's senses, they're fried right now. Like, his whole sense of balance is off. He has no idea how to use his quirk right now, because Deku has his sense of purpose and body inverted on him. And Todoroki just can't get his quirk right. Dark Shadow immediately starts to attack Uraraka, which does end up knocking her out. So Tokiyami is actually the first person to get a knockout. And basically, Deku sees that and he takes it as a challenge. So what's he do? He takes Todoroki's head and knees him square in the chin, knocking Todoroki out and basically eliminating him. And Deku is pretty much going to eliminate all of Class 1B students. So, yeah, they're out of there. And Ida, he's running around knocking out the rest of them. So, basically, the last 3 in the circle are Deku, Tokiyami, and Ida. And Deku takes this as a challenge. So, he just starts walking up on them. And he decides to do the Caesar pose. You know the one. Where he's with JoJo. Yeah, that's the pose he makes. As he tells them, come at me. So, what does Ida and Tokiyami do? They go at him. But they're pretty sure that it's not considered a team up, since the dude literally invited him. So, they have to make sure. And, fucking Torino tells them, it's not a team up. He invited the 2 of you, and if both of you choose to take him on, it's not technically a team up, because you guys didn't say let's team up. They agree to that. As Deku immediately gives them the Sunlight Yellow Overdrive, or Sunshine Yellow Overdrive. I forget the name at the moment. Correct me down below. And he does that straight to Tokiyami, and it burns Dark Shadow. Dark Shadow does not like Hamon. And he just retreats back into Tokiyami's body and refuses to come out. And Tokiyami's just like, what? You can't refuse to come out. We're supposed to be here together, as Tokiyami's Dark Shadow tells him, not near that bastard, he burned me. As Tokiyami's surprised that Dark Shadow's just like, got burned. It's a shadow. How do you burn a shadow? And basically, Deku tells him, tough luck. as he knocks Tokoyami's lights out with a high kick to the head. And Ida's trying to do his Respiro burst as Deku just makes bubble barrier around him. So as soon as he tries to do that Respiro burst, bubble forms around him, and immediately just Ida rushes himself right out of the circle because he can't control himself in a bubble. Let's be honest here. So, as that happens, Deku wins and moves on. However, he's not the first one to win, as he looks around and notices Shinzo's actually done first. And he's just surprised by that. However, he looks around and Monoma's not victorious. He's actually beaten. He looks at who, and it's by Kirishima. As Deku just looks at Kirishima and he's wondering how Monoma could copy his quirk. Monoma had great combat, unless his quirk had something that Monoma couldn't copy. Deku's surprised because Monoma did not tell Deku anything about Kirishima. So Kirishima's a mystery to Deku at this point. As for the last person to move on, it's Bakugo. Bakugo completely demolished his entire block, and he was pissed, as basically he's deciding to look around and he's just like, the hell is this? And basically it's time for the last match, which is a fatal 4-way battle. As he's just going around looking, he's just like, okay, this is a fatal 4-way. That means I have 3 opponents at once, but so do they. As Kirishima's looking and he's like, man, I got really the toughest opponents I could ever ask for. A dude with an explosion quirk. Then I got that Shinzo guy. Don't know his quirk at all. And then I got the Zeppeli kid, who's the strongest person in our class. Man, All Might, I don't know if I could take them all. I'll give it my best shot though. So, with that out of the way, everyone's really looking forward to this match because these are the 4 that shine the most all throughout the sports festival. But they don't know how they're going to determine 2nd and 3rd place. So that's when Hisashi comes on from the intercom system and says that 2nd and 3rd place will be determined by who goes out of the rings first. The first person eliminated does not get in the placings. From there, it's a matter of principle. The second person to be eliminated is 3rd. The 3rd person to be eliminated is 2nd. Last person is 1st place. Naturally, this is how these things would go. So with that, I say okay. And basically, they all just tell them, it's time to pick hero names though. We're not going to be out here and the last one and using your actual names. From now on, you guys, before this battle begins, pick your hero names. As Deku's like, this is not the time or the place, old man. And Hisashi says, I think it is. These people want something to call you. How would you feel if they just started chanting your actual names? Then all that hype that's going to go behind you, it's just going to be used for your actual name. Pick your hero names now. We'll give you 30 minutes to decide. So, Shinzo, he's actually thinking about this pretty hard. Deku says, I've come up with mine. As everyone's just like, oh, already? This kid must have this name picked out for a while. And Hisashi says, present it then. As Deku takes the microphone and says, you shall know me as the Drip Hero Zeppeli. I shall not answer to any other name. As everyone's just like, what? Oh, everyone's just thinking, oh, okay, it's just because of his bubbles drip. But he's actually referring to his clothing. As Bakugo just says, call me the god of explosions, death, dynamite. As everyone's just like, kind of violent, but okay, we'll just call him Dynamite for short. And for Kirishima, he says, call me the Pillar Man. And everyone's just like, ooh, Pillar Man, that's a nice name. Deku immediately gives Kirishima the look, and he says, you really pick a poor name, and I'm going to enjoy beating the dog piss out of you, my boy. You might not realize it, but you just signed up for an instantaneous ass whooping from me. And Kirishima's just like, what did I do? And Deku just says, you took the name. You bastard, you took the fucking name. As he's looking up now, and Inko's just like, that is so insensitive. So with Shinzo being the last one, he says, alright, I've found my name. As basically, he says, you may call me Dio. As Deku looks at him and is like, motherfucker, you too. Okay, you guys have signed yourselves up for an automatic ass whooping. And you, Dynamite Kid, yeah, you've signed up for an ass whooping as well, just because of how we met. By the way, how's those teeth? Have they grown back yet? As Bakugo says, you fucking bastard, what the hell are you talking about? As Deku just points at the belt and he says, I can knock 5 more out if you want. Although it might be more than 5 this time. Can't really say for sure. As Bakugo's just so pissed off, and Midnight can tell that they're about to jump the gun. So she immediately starts the match. With that, Deku, he rushes, like he's fully going for Bakugo first, just to knock the fucking Pomeranian out of him. So he takes off the belt as he says, Hamon belt overdrive, slapping Bakugo clear across the face. So hard, in fact, it actually breaks his jawbone and knocks out 10 teeth out of Bakugo's mouth. As everyone's just like, he used a belt? And they say, is that even in the rules? And Midnight says, I need that kid for my internship. The way he uses that belt, imagine if he had a whip. So, yeah, look forward to that. But basically, Deku, he's just going ham. Kirishima charges right towards Shinzo. As Shinzo's trying to use his quirk, but Kirishima doesn't even hear him. He's just constantly caught up in his head on what's wrong with the name Pillar Man. He thinks it sounds actually pretty badass. So, you know, he's just like, whatever. I'll just beat this kid and I'll ask him myself. So he charges up One For All with his hardening quirk, and he basically just hits Shinzo with one good hard hit to the gut. And Shinzo's actually throwing up a little bit because Shinzo's stats aren't the highest. He's at like an E and D level right now, which is what he kind of was in the whole training, the class 1A versus 1B arc in the manga. So I just boosted him up to there over the 3 months. So yeah. But basically, yeah, Shinzo gets one-shotted. And so did Bakugo. Now the real fight can begin with, you know, Deku versus Kirishima. The man of Hamon versus the man of One For All, aka All Might's successor. And Gran Torino looks at Kirishima and says, well, is he able to use it all out throughout his body, or is he just channeling it into one? Because as soon as he hit that guy, his hardening quirk just basically blew off his arm. And All Might says, well, he's only able to use about 10% of it right now. He was really actually, I just kind of chose him because he tried to save this kid. And he did it with such bravery and gusto, I had no choice. And Gran Torino says, you suck at picking actual successors, All Might. And All Might says, sorry, teacher. he says, "You're an even worse teacher. Why are you here?" As All Might says, "I'm trying my best." And Gran Torino says, "You're getting a crash course after this. Like, no, you're getting a crash course." As basically, All Might's just like, "Yes, sir." Deku, he's just like, "No way is a Zeppeli getting crushed by a Pillar Man ever again." And Kirishima's just like, "What is the deal with the Pillar Men?" And Deku just tells him, "I'll show you after this, alright?" And Kirishima just says, "Alright, sure, but I'm not changing the name, whatever you show me." As Deku just says, "Okay, fine then." As he basically rushes at Kirishima, grabs his head, and infuses it with Hamon, mind controlling Kirishima. As Deku makes a bubble, he sits on the bubble, crosses his leg, pops the hat, and says, "Eliminate yourself." And Kirishima does it. He eliminates himself, as Deku says, "Arrivederci." And he undoes the Hamon, and Kirishima realizes he just walked himself right out. And the reason why One For All didn't snap him out of that mind control is because it's Hamon, not a quirk. Since Hamon is life force energy, he can literally infuse it on a level so fine that not even One For All can counteract it. Because, yeah, Hamon is actually that strong. And basically with that, Deku wins and nobody's surprised. I mean, the kid's a Zeppeli. He comes from such a prestigious family that it's just insane. And yeah, basically that's actually where I'm going to be leaving it off. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, I'd appreciate it if you left a like, comment, subscribe. And I'm sorry if you guys hear any of the background noise. I have to record in the truck for right now, but I'll try to do what I can to edit it out. But anyways, see you guys. Peace.